Bam. Last week, I was able to hit Paydirt. We nailed the cash game, 50-50 lineup, and the tournaments didn't do terrible either, but they did in cash. But that's it, right? It's like double the money every week, and with the less risky double ups, etc. And then out of the winnings, we will play tournaments, get our home run swings, and all that. Let's try it again. This week, Cowboys at Giants. Close game last week. Dallas seems to be still trying to adjust to Mike Zimmer's scheme. They're learning on the job. The road does get easier this week. They're going to travel to the Meadowlands for a divisional showdown with the Giants. That game is starting right now as I record this. But Malik Neighbors, that's it. It's like that's what you like on the Giants side of the ball for this game. He has been incredible thus far, and it's not inconceivable that he would get his while the rest of the team struggles. Despite him, this can be a get-right spot for the Dallas defense, though. If you have them in seasonal, I'd be okay with playing that defense. I do expect modest success running the ball from Dallas with their mix of their running backs, but Dak and Lamb and Ferguson are in play. Cooks, if you're banged up at wide receiver, is interesting. Even on the short turnaround this week, Big D rebounds and gets the road win in New York. Cowboys. So on the Sunday, Rams at Bears. Bears are a mess. I will say this, though, and looking at the play calls last week, you can see where they are working the gameplay around the capabilities or lack thereof with Caleb Williams. Short, quick routes to get the ball out, take away the tougher decisions, and rely on the play after the catch. Most of last week's game with the Colts was 7-3 until late because both QBs were trash. And the Colts run game finally took over with an assist from the defense. That late pick is probably more on Odunze, but Caleb, you threw 2 picks. I'm out on this team basically. The defense looks fine in Chicago, but they will, but where are they going to find help basically? We saw last week the Bears passing game can be profitable for us, but who do you trust out there? Odunze got the targets, but Keenan Allen wasn't playing. So what happens if he suits up this week? Let's not forget that he got targeted 11 times in week 1. There are better plays than any of these guys, and Swift is dead to me. Don't cut him, but sit him. Kyron Williams looks real playable on the other side of this. I'll be using him for DFS tournaments, no doubt, this week. I'm not overly excited to play anybody else in that format unless you need to. Like, you need to start Komet. Okay. The Rams need to have more. They seem, I should say, to have more pep in their step. And the game plan for McVay is definitely just better than what the Bears will show up with on Sunday. Close game, Bears won't roll over, but Rams win and Chicago falls to 1-3. Broncos at Jets. Denver showed up in Tampa last week. Good for them. This will be a tougher matchup against the Jets on the road, though. That run game still hasn't really got going for the Broncos, so they expect too much for Nick and thinking the whole offense can run through him with running being an accent. Every week won't be like last week, but that's the best case scenario performance Sean Payton is looking for. Are the Jets as tough as a D as the Steelers? No would be my answer to that. So this isn't the toughest matchup that Bo Nix has had set before him this year, but it will be a difficult day. Josh Reynolds looked good in tournaments, but I don't want too much else from them. You can bench Javonte Williams in seasonal if you have another starter, unless it's Swift. Broncos defense has some folks interested early on here. I'm not one of them. Not sure if they can hold up over the next stretch of the season. They also just lost Alex Singleton in the middle of the defense for the year to IR. Dude shredded his ACL and finished the game. That's tough. On the Jets side, I like Breece Hall a lot. Could have been cash game playable this week if he wasn't so expensive. We need that money elsewhere for this slate. But yes, I will have some tournament exposure for sure. I like Rodgers to spread it around and as opposed to working on one guy for multiple tutties. But I won't play him in DFS. I don't think we need to go there. Not enough possible production versus some of the other more fruitful matchups out there. But Jets win at home in this one. Vikings at Packers. Jordan Love is trying his best to suit up on Sunday for what should be a fun one. The Vikings have beaten all expectations thus far this year and look to establish themselves a little bit further in Green Bay this week. We rightfully identified Sam Darnold as a tournament play last week and paired him with Jalen Naylor for salary savers. That lineup did okay, but some of our more expensive plays didn't go off. This week I like Naylor, but less so if Addison suits up. Addison isn't better in my opinion, but he will take away precious targets. Naylor is on a roll, and we're looking for the right environment for him to exploit. This could be it. Even if Addison plays, I'm still on Naylor, but it has to be a tournament play. He could easily make it out there in 3 wide receiver sets. They, aren't getting great tight end production with Hockenson still out anyway. So it does make sense to run these guys in the 3 wide receiver set. Aaron Jones was a smash play last week, and we got him low owned and cheap at $5,900. Well, he's in a nice spot again this week. He's bumped up by $500 to $6,400, but that can't shake our determination to play him. Also, revenge week, if you're into that kind of a thing. He's going back to Green Bay, and you better believe he wants to smash the pack. I'm locking this in for my cash games. Justin Jefferson is playable every week for seasonal. I'm probably not going there for DFS. I'm sure he will see a lot of Jair Alexander, and he probably, can beat him a couple of times, but it's just a harder matchup this week. Which caps his ceiling a little bit more for me. On the other side of things, Josh Jacobs is interesting, but I only have interest in seasonal format with him. I like Jaden Reed a lot this week, guys. Cash game playable. And that's whether Love or Willis is back there for me. Same thing as what we saw with Chicago and Caleb Williams. The play calling last week by LaFleur was excellent. He really made the decisions very easy for Malik Willis. Quick drop back, first read type plays that are hard to mess up, plus blocking scheme, etc. It's been fun to watch. I think most money is on, Minnesota, but I'll take Green Bay at home in what I expect to be a hotly contested game this week. Saints at Falcons. These two teams seem to always have a gritty, grizzly, knockdown slug type match. I feel like both teams are on to something here. But this is the first time these revamped staffs face one another. I do like what each defense offers as well, so I expect the close game. Kamara is banged up, and the Falcons have not been the easiest team to run on. Maybe we get more Jamal Williams in the mix this week. Kamara's fine for season long. I think Olave would be more in check this week. Perhaps Shaheed if you're looking for a tournament flyer. I don't think I'll get there, though. Jawan Jennings is my salary saver at tight end this week for DFS. Please get a touchdown. That's all you really hope for with a play like this. On the other side of things, it's another tougher matchup for Cousins. Lower on London, but he's still playable for season long, not DFS. Pitts in all formats. If I can afford him, he's going in the cash game this week. I probably need to keep that cash, though, and settle for Juwan Johnson. I know it's the ultimate punt, but if you do want to pay up, like I will in tournaments, then Pitts this week you can do. Bijan Robinson is a season-long good play, but I feel for DFS he's too expensive this week. I'll take the Saints with a huge road win in Atlanta. I just think Dennis Allen and company are just a little bit tiny further cemented in their program versus the Falcons are at this point, but not too much more. Eagles at Bucks. Bucks came down to earth last week, as we knew they would. Broncos put it on them at home. In Tampa, these are the lapses that really call into question who this team is, if you ask me. I mean, it's like you beat the Lions, then you lose to the Broncos at home. I mean, week-to-week consistency is the thing that elevates a team to greatness. And the Bucks and Baker still trying to figure out if they can be this team. Bucky Irvin has all but taken the job for Rachaad White. I mean, he's out there on pass protection. He's catching passes. He's a better runner. This is not the best week, though, against Vic Fangio's Eagles defense. They want to invite you to run. Again, we talked about this by showing you what looks, like something where you see some sexy lanes are open, but that's not what ends up happening. The Saints slammed Kamara into that trap a bunch of times last week, but with no real positive results, and the Bucks would do well to maybe stay away from that plan. Instead, they should attack the Eagles where they are most vulnerable, in the secondary. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are both good plays this week, let me say that. But it could be one or the other is what I think. So they'll have to be tournament plays. I don't think you have to play them both together with Baker, but you can if you want to. I will at least pair one of them with him when I do a tournament this week. On the other side, A.J. Brown probably not playing, and Devonta Smith doesn't look good to play either with his concussion. If you take a flyer, you can take a flyer if you want on Jahan Dotson. That's fine. Like, who else do they have? But without so many weapons, Hurts transitions from a great play to a risky play. Now, I'm still doing it in tournaments for DFS, but tougher matchup for Goddard. I'm not interested there. It's all about Saquon Barkley, though, and play him. Playing him and Hurts together, I think, makes sense too in tournaments. He's a great play for me, even though the matchup isn't that good. He can redeem himself and catch some passes this week, paying off for himself and Hurts in a game that I do expect the Eagles to win. Bengals at Panthers. Welcome to the 2024 season, Carolina Panthers. Nailed it last week, y'all. Red Rocket to Deontay Johnson. Guys, if you want to pick them up, in tournament settings, these are good plays. The more risky low-end QB, with his wide receiver one, because if it hits, then that's all you're looking for at that point is the most likely thing next to happen, and that's your more expensive guys pay off and exceed value. That's why plays like this are so good. Did it work this week? Using that format with these Panthers? No, I had the wrong expensive guys. But on a slate like this weekend where we have so fewer choices at the top due to injury that we can nail the scrubs part of the lineup with guys like this, then the stars part of the lineup should align a little bit easier. The Bengals defense are going to have a better outing this week. This is a much less mobile QB in Dalton, I should say. But that starts a downhill cascade. That'll put more pressure on the run game. So maybe expecting less from Chuba Hubbard this week. Thielen is also out. So, Xavier Legette is the next guy up, but I'm not really interested in that this week. On the other side of things, the Bengals are, rounding into shape even more. I expect good performances all around this week. Burrow is a nice tournament play this week after anchoring the cash game at 1% owned last week. More people will be on to him, but it's still a good play. Chase and Higgins are also in play. Yet I still like Iosivas. Also, they all have tournament value for me this week. This feels similar to my feelings about Tampa Bay. The most sure of the receivers for me has to be Higgins. I expect them to make an effort to get him going. And he's lower priced here at $5,900. Cash game, consider it for sure based on that price. Zach Moss is in play in all formats for me. We'll probably use him in DFS cash games. Great value at $5,900. And again, Bengals are going to go win. Jaguars at Texans. I want to see Stroud get back on track in this one. He made some mistakes early last game that put them in the hole right away. So let's see if he can come back strong this week off the heels of that loss. I love Diggs this week. Cash game again. If others don't want it, we'll keep taking it, y'all. He's the guy there with Nico Collins really being that home run hitter, if you will. But it's Diggs that will matriculate the ball down the field with Stroud. Mixon not trending towards playing, but would put Cam Akers in line for another start if he didn't. I got burned with him last week. I'm not going back there, barring injury and season-long format where he might fill a need maybe. But for DFS, I want to keep it to Stroud and Diggs. If Mixon were to play, I'd have some interest there. On the other side of things, can the Texans defense have a solid week? I have no interest in Christian Kirk. Ingram is banged up. I like Brian Thomas a lot this week. He's usable for cash games, in my opinion, based on his price. I will do that based on his price. After going back and forth, I may do one lineup with Etienne, but I will not have much exposure. It's not a great matchup, but we can't ignore what Aaron Jones just did to this defense. We know they can be bad. I will take the Texans at home in the get-right spot, though. Steelers at Colts in this one. Just go back and, look at the game last week. Richardson can't throw. He missed so many wide open throws. It's not even funny, y'all. The Colts should have had an easier time in that one. But again, if you look at the film, he was trashed. That's not going to cut it against the Steelers this week. We leveraged JT beautifully last week. Jonathan Taylor can't do it against this Steelers defense, though. The Steelers are also only priced at $3,300 this week. DFS lock across the board for me if we're going to get them that cheaply for what figures to be a tough one for the Colts this week. I'm going to take the Steelers on the road in this one. Freiermuth if you need, but for DFS, nothing else really. Commanders at Cardinals. Intriguing matchup for me here. I'm buying what the Cardinals are selling just a little bit. They got to keep showing it to me, but I like what I see thus far. Kyler Murray has this like completely different type of game than Joe Burrow. This is going to be a bigger test for the Commanders defense, trying to limit the rushing upside, while minding the big play to Harrison on the back end. Kyler makes a ton of sense for me this week. I think there's going to be plenty of production to be had in this one. Jaden Daniels can keep the Commanders around enough to make Kyler need to compete all game is what I like. I like Harrison, but more in tournaments. So maybe I do a tournament lineup with him and Kyler because he won't be in the cash game lineup for me with Kyler. Brian Robinson is real interesting on the other side of the ball for me. Then McLaurin, then Jaden Daniels in that order. Remember, the Cardinals defense sees a lot of Kyler Murray in practice. I think that, along with understanding the concepts for running quarterback by the coaching staff for Arizona, will make this a tough matchup for the Commanders and Daniels. I'll take the Cards in a fun one out in the desert. Patriots at 49ers this week. Niners are obviously reeling from injuries, but, hey, that didn't stop Juwan Jennings from absolutely going off last week. I missed out. We missed out. I didn't see it coming, but what are you going to do? We didn't need it, as it turns out, though, as we survived those that did have it in the cash games because he was super low owned. The 49ers defense, though, needs to step up, and they got to win this game. No reason why they should not be the difference maker here. Kittle may play, and I like him, and Ayuk if he does. Jennings is going to be popular, and I just need to fade that again. I think the last likely thing is that he goes off like that again. I can't, take the ownership this weekend. I'll stay away, but I do like Mason. It's a tournament play, though, because, the injuries to the receiving core have definitely put more strain on the running game for the Niners. Purdy is not for me in DFS this week with so few healthy options. On the Pat side of things, Ramondre Stevenson is a real good play, though. They have got to establish the run, and that is the only thing I like for them this week, them being New England. I'll say Niners wake up and win this one. Browns at Raiders. I'm not completely out on Deshaun Watson just yet. In crunch time, he still has this ability to use his legs to scramble and make a big throw. Amari Cooper was another one of our red-hot plays last week, and we're going right back to the well again this week. At $6,300, he's in play for cash games. If you've seen the Browns this year, then these are contested catches, difficult catches. He is balling. Ford is a tournament and season-long play for me. This offensive line is reeling from the loss of Bill Callahan to the Titans. If you just look at it, you can see they're lost at times. The Raiders were asleep at the wheel last week. We expected what we saw from the Panthers, but the Raiders didn't have much fight in them. Those tournament picks really hampered our lineups and production from Carolina players too, to be honest. They get back on track this week, though, with a better showing on defense. Antonio Pierce will see to that. I like Zamir White this week for season long. I think it's a tougher matchup for Bowers, so we'll fade him and White in DFS, but play in season long. Devonta Adams can still be started in season long, sure, but in DFS, we got to begin to fade that until we see some life there. Too expensive to ride, a costly turnover, gave the game to the Giants last week. I don't think the Browns will be looking to give one away again this week. They win a tough ball game on the road in Vegas. Chiefs at Chargers. Well, we're not sure if Herbert is going to play. We love the Kansas City defense if he doesn't. If he does play, I've got DFS tournament interest in Herbert. But that's it. That team is limited with upside as, they and Coach Harbaugh are still trying to figure it out. I like Kelsey this week for season long, fire him up. But for DFS, I'm not sure I'm going there. We'll see. But if you want to pay up, I feel better about Kittle over Kelsey on this slate, basically. But Kelsey is in play. I think the Chiefs try to integrate Hunt in the ground game more this week. It's not the best matchup, but it is a winnable one. If they want to be around for the playoffs, and they know that they will have to, have some stability back there in the run game. They could get that by, They could get that this week by I guess what I'm trying to say is they can begin to build that this week. But if you get stability in the run game, my overall arcing thought is that's going to suggest dominance for this team based on everything else that they've been able to put together. I'm not in on it, but I do expect to see them put it together this week. Chiefs win this one on the road. Bills at Ravens. We got a heavyweight matchup on our hands Sunday night in this one. Both offenses are in play. It's not that I think that these are bad defenses. I don't think that at all. But I do think I don't even think we've seen Buffalo's full potential yet this year. And I think the Ravens will push them there. The Ravens team can score points, and I think they will here. Flowers is a fine play for me this week. Andrews less so, likely is a middling play. But Derrick Henry will set the tone, and he's a great play. He has such high touchdown upside from the goal line. The Bills will be ready to rumble in this one. You can believe that, though. Josh Allen is a lock and load. Cook is fine and seasonal. Coleman is a DFS dart throw on the short slate. We've seen the Chiefs use the speedster to beat this group of Ravens over the top in week 1, and Coleman would be the equivalent of that play. So interest there, but I love Khalil Shakir again in this one. The different ways they use him along with the urgency for points this week, they look really good to me. I think the Bills are the better team, but the Ravens are turning it up right now, and they're coming off a huge win against Dallas, and I think they followed that up with an even bigger win, arguably against the best team in football right now. Ravens at home for my money this week. Titans at Dolphins, and Monday we're forced to watch this. Skyler looked awful last week, and we don't even know who's going to start this week. Either way, the Texans' defense is an excellent play. Achane can't be trusted with the passing game going nowhere. Easy to just load up and put 8 in the box. So he's off the radar for sure for me. Tony Pollard should have a better week. I like him. And receiver-wise, I think Levis spreads it around, but probably not more than 250 yards, which they won't need. Miami's pretty dreadful. Seahawks at Lions. Okay, I think Geno and the Seahawks are pretenders. They will get found out this week. The Lions are so strong up front at the point of attack, and I really see for Seattle this strong possibility of getting blown off the ball all night long. Montgomery and Gibbs both in play here for me. St. Brown, of course, but also I think Laporta gets going here. They can fire him up. You can fire him up with confidence, I should say. I like Seattle more if Kenneth Walker plays, but that remains to be seen if he's going to do that. DJ Metcalf will at least get low double-digit points in this one, but his upside is a score to go along with that. Lions win at home. I won't say in a blowout fashion, but I think they will win convincingly, if we could put it that way. Good luck on Sunday. Let's meet right back here next week and learn, scout, win, repeat.